Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to a post about physics culture. It's called You've Gotta Keep 'Em Separated. In the words of the 1990s band The Offspring, you've gotta keep 'em separated, the subspecialties of physics, that is. Since I'm writing a novel about a physics inquisition, this song was perfect to help me get into the mood of an inquisitor. I don't even know if it'll play.
You gotta keep them separated.
Like the latest fashion, like a spreading disease, the kids are strapping on their way to the classroom, getting weapons with the greatest of ease. The gangs stake their own campus locale, and if they catch you slippin', then it's all over, pal. If one guy's colors and the others don't mix, they're gonna bash it up, bash it up. Hey, you talking back to me? Take 'em out. You gotta keep 'em separated. Hey, man, you disrespecting me? Take 'em out. You gotta keep 'em separated. Hey, they don't pay no mind. If you're under 18, you won't be doing any time. Hey, come out and play. So when I read this, I think of a campus environment in which the different subspecialties of physics are being divided up, and you're not supposed to mix them, because if they start to mix, then they might team up against the professors and challenge what they're teaching, and you can't have that. And then the deadly aspect of the story, in which in my story it's that there's an inquisition, so that if you don't follow the rules of this physics education system, you end up in jail or dead. By the time you hear the siren, it's already too late. One goes to the morgue and the other to jail. One guy's wasted and the other's a waste. It goes down the same as the 1,000 before. No one's getting smarter, no one's learning the score. Your never-ending spree of death, violence, and hate is gonna tie your own rope. So in this picture, I imagine these teachers as being brainwashed into being completely paranoid about the power these students could potentially have if they understood how to actually use the knowledge they seek. So they've come to these schools hoping for knowledge that will give them power, but that power is far too dangerous to entrust to any individual. So if you want to wield any power, you have to join the system and you have to play by their rules. And the system is designed to filter out the people who just won't play by the rules. And once they've been given knowledge that is dangerous, their life is on the line. So, but in more practical terms, so that's just the story, but in the real physics community, just as the Crips don't invite the Bloods over for tea, neutrinos do not fit well within the standard model, because if the Higgs exists, then neutrinos can't exist, and vice versa. Or rather, they can only coexist if they never see one another, theoretically speaking. So that's the idea. That's why this Offspring song seemed to match, the idea of these compartmentalized, competing groups. Meanwhile, massive light doesn't exist in the standard model or in Big Bang physics, but in a tired light universe, either light has a tiny bit of mass that slows it down in a viscous continuous ether, or light has no mass at all, but it gets slowed down by its discrete interaction with magnetic monopoles that are approximations of some space-time etheric substance made up of axions, neutrinos, and any other unmeasurable wimp that people can dream up. To put this into a historical context, in pre-war classical mechanics, you have light losing energy to electric and magnetic monopoles in a virtually unmeasurable continuous process And in post-war quantum mechanics, you have virtually unmeasurable neutrinos taking rotational energy away from decaying dipoles in a discrete process. Since a magnetic monopole is a magnetic dipole frozen in time and situated in a sort of imaginary, stationary Cartesian space, and it only exists in an instant, I think that neutrinos are what high-energy light looks like over a time step, while light only truly exists in an instant. And how you define an instant depends on how fast you're moving, how fast the thing you want to measure is moving. And I think this all makes a lot more sense when you understand the difference between Lorentzian and Galilean Maxwell's equations. Something that gets very confused for people at the college level. Because you start learning Lorentzian conventions at the same time that you're learning Galilean. Right, you're learning these, first you learn Galilean concepts, and then you learn Maxwell's equations at the same time without knowing that the Galilean concepts aren't really consistent with the form of the Maxwell's equations you're learning. That form of Maxwell's equations is only really consistent with Lorentzian mechanics. So, since things that exist in an instant are modeled through an absolute Cartesian coordinate system, while things that exist over a time step are modeled through a relativistic Riemannian coordinate system, I think that whenever a physicist writes about neutrinos in Cartesian space, he's making an error by conflating two systems that should really be kept separate because they define space and time in different ways. And in the jargon of the physics community, they translate between different languages by saying that different concepts are duals. It's a dual of each other, and it's just jargon, unnecessary. Another difference between light and neutrinos has something to do with how they couple to matter, or things that have circulating motion. Light couples to a volume in flat Cartesian space, and neutrinos couple to a surface in curved Riemannian space. But this brings me to another classic of 1990s MTV rock, Hook by Blues Traveler. A song about how to convince people you are genuine when you are full of it. Now, I really should have practiced singing this because I can't sing it. It's too complicated. This was that song that he sings really fast. It doesn't matter what I say, so long as I sing it with inflection. That makes you feel I'll convey some inner truth or vast reflection. But I've said nothing so far, and I can keep it up for as long as it takes. And it don't matter who you are. If I'm doing my job, then it's your resolve that breaks. This is what a professor has to do. Because the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. There is something amiss. We all sense that there's something amiss when we sit in a physics classroom. I am being insincere. In fact, I don't mean any of this, because I think a lot of the professors know that they're not being completely 100% straight with the students about these things. Still, my confession draws you near. To confuse the issue, I refer to familiar heroes of long ago, like Einstein. No matter how much Peter loved her, what made the pan refuse to grow was that the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. And then the song becomes a little bit, has some mixed metaphors about sexuality, which I won't read. but the lyrics are worth looking at. But they made me sad when I first heard the song, because when I heard the song, I heard, "The heart brings you back." It's a much more hopeful lyric, because I'm a very hopeful person, and I feel genuine. Yet at the same time, I often worry that I'm surrounded by Pinocchios and Wizards of Oz. To conclude this post by bedazzling you with a fantabulous confabulation of seemingly disparate issues, the magnetic monopoles of which I have spoken exist in an unmeasurable instant, just as love exists in an instant. But once time passes, you wonder if that instant was real or an illusion. Your cynical self tells you that reality was the hook, not the heart bringing you back to the surface for a precious breath of fresh air, when all you have to do is open your eyes and you'll see magnetic monopoles and love all around you. Every time you see a spark or a flash of lightning between two people or particles. All it takes to believe in magnetic monopoles or love is to let yourself feel that spark inside of yourself. I'm being a bit silly here. Sometimes conflating things clarifies, and sometimes it obscures. I think conflation is good when it helps distinguish concepts, and it is bad when it muddies them. The best way I know to stay out of the mud is to remember that a magnetic monopole is an approximation of a fluid, dynamic process. As your approximation requires, sometimes the monopoles are big and sometimes they are small. Big whirls make little whirls, and so on to viscosity, and viscosity is an approximation of a sea of smaller magnetic monopoles. Can there be a smallest magnetic monopole? Or is there a real, viscous, continuous substance gluing everything together? I don't think we'll ever know, and that's okay. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something unexpected, and I hope you look forward to the next video.